G'day, guys. My name is Glenn, and I'm from Australians Teach English. I'm also a paraplegic, an English teacher, and an English learner. So I thought I would have a bit of a crack at making this vlog, just to talk about my language learning process, my teaching process, and also some of the things about my daily uh, process as well. So I'm going to give this a little bit of a crack. You might be familiar from my podcast, Australians Teach English, and I thought this might be a little bit more of a creative outlet for me and for you guys to get to know me a little bit more as well. So I am very lazy, as you can see from this shirt. Sometimes I don't even move my legs, and I'm really interested in trying to learn languages in the most lazy way possible, really. That's sort of my modus operandi for everything. So I'm hoping that I can share some tips for you guys to help you out there learning whichever language it is that you're choosing to learn. So a little bit about my story. Before I ended up in a wheelchair, I was living in Argentina for nearly 5 years or so. Back when I had abs. I had an 8 pack actually, and judging by this photo, and I went there ironically enough to dance tango and learn a bit of Spanish as well. And I did that. I think I've got a pretty good level of Spanish. And at that time as well, I was thinking of, well, just before COVID, I was thinking of going to Portugal. So I started learning Portuguese as well. And I've continued on with that. I also speak a little bit of Chinese as well. And I started that because I started teaching a lot of Chinese students as well. So I'm probably at a elementary stage, or maybe even an A2 or a B1 level with my Chinese. So that's an ongoing challenge as well. I can also speak a bit of Swahili, a little bit of Polish for some reason, some Tagalog, and probably some other languages around the place as well. But it certainly has been an interest of mine, and especially so since I've become a paraplegic. So last year, in the middle of last year, I had a car accident, which left me paralyzed basically from the chest down. So from T3, T4, I had a complete transection of my spinal cord, and I also broke the vertebra in my spine. And so what they did is they put screws from T2 to T5, I think it was, and then connected rods in between them. But basically from my chest down, I don't have any feeling and very little muscular control, although I'm very lucky to have a little bit of abdominal muscle control. But basically, I really shouldn't be alive. I was extremely lucky. I had a pulmonary embolism, which is a blood clot in my lungs. I also had a spinal stroke below the level of injury to my spinal cord. I had lung infections. I had fluid on my lungs. I had to operate on my lungs. I had a ventilator, and you can still see the scar here. I was so lazy. I wasn't even using my lungs to breathe. And yeah, basically I spent 6 weeks in intensive care, and for most of that part, not breathing by myself. So I was lucky enough to survive all of that. And then when I came out of that, when I'd had a crack at trying to breathe and trying to swallow and trying to eat again, I decided that, having a crack at more languages would be a good way to go. And so that's what I'm here doing. And yeah, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. That was sort of my philosophy with swallowing and eating again, because at one stage I wasn't sure if that's what I was actually even going to be able to do. but trying giving something a crack is certainly also my modus operandi for learning languages, as well as everything else. So yeah, hopefully you guys might get a little bit out of this. And if you want to ask me any questions about my processes for learning languages and how I go about learning languages and communicating as someone that lives in a wheelchair, then that would be awesome. I'm always up for your feedback and for answering questions and stuff. So hopefully you're up for giving this a bit of a crack. Not like the vertebra in my spine, but hopefully you're up for giving learning a little bit of a crack, and hopefully I can teach you how to unparalyze your language learning in the same way. So, Guru guys, nice to meet you all out there in video land.
For more information about the Australians Teach English Institute, go to australiansteachenglish.com or follow us on Instagram, Facebook and YouTube at Australians Teach English.